Go to the cloud. Hello, everyone, and we are now at the podcast for the Master in Financial Engineering podcast, Quant Financial Engineering, and I have here with me Prince. Prince is an MFE from Lehigh, and he's going to talk to us about this project called Falling Knives. Prince, take it away.
Okay, so for the past 1 year, we've been working on the falling knives trading strategy, and we've gotten to a point whereby we've changed our model from some phase threshold that was used to determine the trading signals to a dynamic one. So today I'm going to discuss with you how we started and where we've gotten to now. So the beginning part of it, I need to put an explanation to what falling knives is. So falling knife is basically what we are trying to mean is we are trying to determine a reversal in the fall of prices of assets, financial assets. So most of the times we see that prices are falling, but then the challenge is to determine whether it is likely to reverse or it is going to reverse soon or later on. So what we try to do is to put together a multi-stage machine learning framework that tries to determine signals, and out of that signals, we tend to create them. So our framework is not just to predict signals, but also to have a maximum predictive power and also profitability. So to begin with, we collected our data from Yahoo Finance. That is the Apple 1 hour trade, and we started from 2013 to that of 2024. And after collecting the data, we now do our feature engineering, which is a mixture of indicators and that of statistical features that we have put together. So through that, we also design our event that is to determine the peak and valley based on the historical price data that we've collected from Yahoo Finance, and out of which we determine our signals, that is the valley and that of the peak. So after that, what we do is to put together our base model. Then before we pass our data into the base model, we try to use the sharp value selection to select our features, value feature selection to select our features. Those that fall within that will have predictive power in our model to select those features. Then from there we move on to the base model. We pass it through the base model.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned so first of all, you mentioned Python, you mentioned a sharp model. So, I guess, how are you coding this?
Okay, so what we do is once we conceive an idea, we do the
And what's the
serial code.
idea right now? What is your idea? What is your strategy?
So first, the idea is to improve the already existing work that was done by our those who started the project with a new form, which is a dynamic threshold that helps to predict the signals. So once we conceive them, we go into Python to try it. Then after that, we do our back testing to confirm if what we've done so far is good. So you mentioned about the sharp
Can you
value.
explain? What do you mean by back testing?
So backtesting is to apply our strategy on already existing data to see the performance of the strategy to to determine whether the strategy is going to perform when we are to go on a live trade. So you also mentioned about the sharp value feature selection. So there's a model that we use to select the features that will help us in predicting our signals. Like I mentioned, we use indicators and also some statistical features as our input. But then we have about 2,000 of them. So we need to get the best that will help us get the right signals. So that is where we bring in the sharp model to help us get the best features for our strategy. So from there, then we move on to we used what the output from the sharp model as our input to get our initial prediction, and that is the base model. So after the base model has predicted to us whether there is a peak or there is a valley or there is a hold. Hold means there is nothing, we shouldn't do anything, we shouldn't trade. Then the peak means that we should go on. They expect that the price will be going up. Then we have the value that is a fall in price. So once we get such indication as an output from there, we have what we call the conformal prediction. So the conformal prediction basically acts like that of a filtering to what we've initially predicted. So it is going to go through the signals that we've predicted to check whether that is a true signal or that is not a true signal. So what it does is where the conformal prediction gets to know that that is not a true prediction, it's converted to a hold, meaning that is not going to be a signal for us to trade on. So it should be converted to a hold. Now, after we've passed it through our conformal prediction and gotten an output from it, what we do next is to pass it through another classification model to confirm that indeed what the conformal prediction gave us is a right signal. And after then we go into our last model, that is the meta labeling. So what the meta labeling does is it will pick all the predictions from the base model, from the conformal prediction, from the classification model, and also the indicators and the features that we selected from our sharp. Then it then gives us the actual prediction to assess them to see whether the prediction that we've already gotten from our base model and the other models is indeed a true model. So the output from the meta labeling is going to be either an indication, a label of 1 or a label of 0, where it is 1 when the meta labeling thinks that is the right signal. But then it tends to be 0 when it thinks the signal that we've gotten is a negative signal. That is, it's not the right signal. It is not something that we should trade on. Then it comes at 0. So once we've gotten that, it will come out with a probability of a probability ranging from 0 to 1. So what the probability means is if you see a higher probability, it means the signal is a right signal and something that you can trade on. And then when you get a lower probability, that is something that you shouldn't even dare go to trade on. So in as much as we are trying to maximize profitability, what our model seeks to add is it seeks to add some stages that tends to prevent weak signals or noise from the signals that we are trying to generate. So in a way, it tends to minimize the risk attached to the strategy. So from there, what we do next. But then when we started our project, one thing that we used to do is to use a fixed threshold to predict our signals. But then for the past 1 month, what we've tried to do is to use the ATR, which happens to be an indicator which measures volatility, current volatility, to be the measure for threshold. So what we've done is once there is a higher volatility, the threshold now changes. And once there is a small volatility, the threshold also changes in accordance with that. So what we seek to achieve here is simple. We know volatility is not constant, it keeps changing. But then with the initial threshold, that was a fixed threshold. Wherever volatility changes, it goes with it. So what it means is that there may be some noise in our signals. But what we've added now moves with volatility, and for that matter, we are getting the right signals. After we've gone through our meta labeling, what we do next is to move into our back testing. So for the back testing, we try to test our model and our strategy on already existing data to assess its impact, to see whether it is a good strategy, it is going to perform on already existing data or not. So the back testing stage, we put together the stop loss, we have our stop loss, take profits, we have dynamics, position sizing, all of them put together at our back testing stage. So where there is a stop loss, we have a stop loss. Where we think there is a too much loss, it will stop. There is no need for it to go on. And we have that of the take profit. When it got to that point and you think you are okay with your profit, you can move away with it. And when it comes to the position sizing, we've made it dynamic. So once there is a signal that looks good, the trade will happen. That is what we do at our back testing stage. So after that, we have our results, and it has been very good. And the good thing about it all is after we introduce the dynamic threshold, what we've noticed is there is a good maximum drawdown now. So if you check, initially we had a maximum drawdown of negative 12%. Now we have it around 2%. And our Sharpe ratio has also increased. It has moved from negative to positive. And if we check our equity graph, it does very well. The strategy now does very well. And that is an indication that indeed we are not compromising on risk, even though we have a lot of stages to get the best out of it. We are also not compromising on risk. So going forward, what we intend to do now is to look for ways where we can also develop different strategies, test what we have on different assets to see its performance. And also, what we intend doing again is maybe to also have a live trade on it. So basically, that is what we've been doing over the past 1 year.
So, how can that be used in real, like in a job? Which kind of job could that be applied for?
So this can sit well with quantitative research. So you act as a researcher in a hedge fund. What you basically do is to research on strategy. So what we've done now is something that a quantitative researcher will do. And because of how it is, you can also use it as a live trading strategy. So traders can also the skills that we've gained from it can be used as a trader aside being a quantitative researcher.
And can you list for me the technical skills that you acquired to do that kind of project?
So first, what I've acquired is I've enhanced my coding capabilities and my machine learning capabilities. And being able, and one key thing under machine learning that I've also acquired is feature engineering, because all these indicators we have to engineer them ourselves. So that is one key thing that I've learned under machine learning. And also being able to interpret all the results that we get from confusion matrix to your equity curves to the ratios that you get from it, being it your drawdown, how to interpret them is also something that I've gained from this project. And above everything, I think the weekly presentation has also given me confidence on how to present when I get into talk to people. So that is not technical, but I see it to be technical because being able to communicate what your ideas is very key in every working environment. So I see it to be technical, even though people may not see it to be technical.
Great. Prince, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully, this is used and you're able to develop it further.
Thank you, Professor.